Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on communicating with warm leads. Now, this webinar is kind of a follow-up to last month's concerning cold leads. So once again, just as a quick review, cold leads are generally individuals who have shown no initial interest in your product. This will be an individual that you approach without any prior introduction, either to yourself or to your product. Warm leads have shown interest, whether that's a visit to your website, emails, calls, in-person communication, or maybe even social media replies to something that you've been marketing there. Warm leads are generally more receptive to the program. Both of these leads, of course, can turn into individuals who use your card every day, but warm leads tend to be a little bit easier to work with as they've already shown an initial interest in a need for your card and the program. Some general attributes of warm leads. Once again, they've already generally looked over your product, they have a good idea of what it is, and they're liking what they hear. Because of this, upon your first communication, they may just jump right in with questions. Of course, just answer those questions in an appropriate customer service fashion. Make sure that you're going over everything thoroughly that they ask. Be sure not to overtalk them, and be sure that you're addressing all of their questions. And of course, if they ask a question that you're not familiar with, you can always tell them that you're going to get back to them on that. But just make sure that you're offering that wonderful customer service attitude and answering everything that they may ask. Now, sometimes you might have somebody that reaches out and says, "Hi, I heard about your card and the program," and then just leaves it at that. They might not just jump in asking questions. To get a general feel of their knowledge base currently about the program, you can try asking something like, "Have you had a chance to review the website?" Or even, "Where did you find us?" Now, that question specifically is great because it will help you pinpoint what info is on that specific marketing source to give you a good idea of what they may or may not already know. For example, if they come from a quick little snippet on a social media post, there might not be as much information there, and they might not have learned as much as if, for example, they had visited your website right off the gate. So that question generally works great. It's non-intrusive. It gives you a good idea of the customer and what they already know. That way you're not necessarily overwhelming them with the same information over and over. And it also gives you a good idea of where exactly to start with the conversation. If your warm lead seems to not have any information on your product, just give them a general overview. Once again, be sure not to overwhelm, especially for individuals who have never heard of such a program or are very skeptical. Too much information is going to overwhelm them. It might scare them off. It might turn them off completely, or they might just not be able to process everything that you give them, and they may miss important points about how everything works. After your overview, always ask if they have any questions. Now, it's a good idea generally if you're starting with a customer who has no idea about the program or who might not have any questions initially. Just every now and then after you go over a main highlight, just stop and say, do you understand that? Is there anything I can clarify there? Or do you have any questions? Always end your conversation by saying something like, "If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to ask." Or, "After you review the information I just sent over, please feel free to get back with me and I can answer any questions and or price check your medications for you." Now, depending on the warm lead, when you're speaking with them initially, they might want you to go ahead and price check the medications initially. So, of course, you wouldn't want to put that into your follow-up. Your warm lead might ask all the questions that they want to during your initial contact and say, "This sounds great. Send me the card now." Now, in those situations, you don't always have to follow up, of course, especially if they want the card immediately and then they know it can save. But it's always a good idea to go ahead and still send a follow-up email, even if that customer has already accepted your card, just to make sure that everything's going okay. Now, as far as following up with individuals who maybe want to do a little bit more research or that you don't necessarily seal the deal with, so to speak, initially, it's always a good idea to reach out to them again as well. Now, if a warm lead wants to do more research before accepting a card, just always ask if you can follow up later. They may tell you no. They may say initially, no, I'm fine. If I feel like I like the program, I can get the card right from your website. And that's okay. Don't be offended if they come off that way. Some individuals like to be very active and interactive with things that they're trying to do, and others just like to do things on their own. Be sure to get appropriate contact info and the preferred method of contact for these individuals you want to follow up with, whether that's email, call, text, or social media. Now, this might become self-explanatory if they, for example, text you the first time or if they reached out to you on social media. You can just assume that you're going to follow up with them that way. Or if they don't give you their contact information, alternative means of contact information per se, you know that you can reach back out to them that way. It is okay to go over highlights of the program in your follow-up communication. In fact, that's a good idea. Just hitting on key notes and just quick little snippets of your follow-up brings the program to the customer's mind, freshens it up, and also hits on those highlights. For example, in this first example here, we're focusing on the 56,000 pharmacies nationwide. Hi, just wanted to follow up to ask if you had any questions. I am ready to get you a savings card so you can start taking advantage of savings at over 56,000 pharmacies nationwide. In this little snippet, the 56,000 pharmacies is definitely going to be the highlight point. Or for example, in the next example here, hello customer, I hope you have been well. I just wanted to check in and ask if you are ready to be mailed, text, or free card. Of course, these are just quick little examples and you want to customize them to your customer. Here, the point that we're hitting on is free. Once again, take notes when you're speaking with your customers. This will help a lot in the follow-up. For example, you can write down a quick little note that they were really stressed about personal information. And then in your follow-ups, you can always just tap on that again. You know, we don't use any personal information, and none of your information is going to be tied to the card. Those things that you can play on to follow up if their initial concerns or questions are going to be great to once again bring that program forward to their mind immediately when you follow up, and also reassure them or re-answer their questions that they had initially. Now, some common responses from warm leads when you're following up. Silence. This is going to be a response that you get a lot from cold leads and warm leads. Definitely more so from cold leads, but you will experience it sometimes with warm leads. Follow up about 2 weeks after your last communication with that customer. Once again, focus on whatever preferred method they had if they let you know, or just use the same method that you initially spoke with them using. With warm leads, remember that they showed an initial interest in the program, so do not hesitate to follow up. Just don't assume because you didn't hear back from them that that's it. Do not assume that. Always remember to follow up. They might have just gotten busy. They might have received a phone call immediately after they got off your call and completely forgot about it. Because they showed that initial interest, that means that there's still an interest there. So do not hesitate to follow up with warm leads at all. You might also get a response such as, I decided it wasn't going to work for us, or I checked my medication prices and it wasn't saving anything. Now, depending on what kind of rebuttal you get here, you can always just calmly and politely get back with them, still opening up the door for conversation and to convert them into a customer who uses your card. For example, if they come back with the medication price rebuttal, ask if they either used the online pricing tool or if they checked at multiple pharmacies in their area. If they say, no, I just checked with the pharmacy I usually use, explain to them that pricing can vary even in the same town. This is a very important point to stress to your customers, that pharmacy pricing is going to vary. Even if two pharmacies are next door to each other, the pricing can be very drastic. Offer to price check for them while you have them on the phone or an email or whatever communication you're using. Just ask if you can do a price check across pharmacies in their area. Explain to them that that's going to price check across all the eligible pharmacies in their area, and that way you can tell them the lowest possible price with the card. If either you or they determine that the price still isn't the best for them, ask if you can still send them a card anyways for future prescriptions. Once again, reiterate that it's 100% free. It's not going to cost them anything, and either them, their family, their friends, their neighbors can use this card. So even if they might not specifically benefit from it right now at this very moment, in the future they very well can. So by just carrying that card in their wallet, they can unlock potential savings in the future for them or anybody that they know. Thank you so much for joining us today as we went over warm leads. Now, just remember that a lead is a lead. Always treat them with respect. Be upfront about the program and be anxious to teach them about the program and help them save on their medication.